Hi, I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven. We're here at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver in January, and I'm joined by George Salamis of Integra Resources. Integra is a company that I quite like, invested in it late last year after visiting the project, which is in Idaho. So why don't you set the stage, tell us a little bit at least what DeLamar is and why your team, after such a great success in Quebec, moved into that area.
Sure, absolutely. So the success, as you know, stems from Integra Gold, which had this great history of taking something small and making it big. And through nuclear winter, obviously the worst times in the mining sector, building up an asset to $600 million worth of value and selling it to Eldorado. So we had a great run. One of the key elements here is that we decided to keep the team together, because we all worked extremely well together. And when we got together, we said, okay, the next asset that we get has to have the same qualities or characteristics as the last one that we just sold. And that is, first world jurisdiction. It has to be brownfields. It has to have a production history that we can point to and use as a springboard for the next discovery. And it has to have all those sort of access and infrastructure characteristics to it. And so we spent a fair bit of time combing North America for assets. We came up with this asset, which we purchased from Kinross. That transaction closed in November.
Right.
And for us, it hit all those marks. It was, or it is, DeLamar is, a past producing site, brownfields, has two production histories, one that goes back to the late 1800s, very high grade flavors. Like if you go through the historical records on those, spectacular grades were mined underground for a very long period of time. And then there was a period of dormancy on the site between the late 1800s and the late 70s when Kinross stepped in. And Kinross went for the low-hanging fruit in that era, which was the low-grade near-surface oxide and transitional ore.
Right.
And so when they shut the mine down in 1998, it wasn't due to exhausted resources, it was due to low gold prices. If you were anybody who was in the industry at that point, it was hand to mouth, it was terrible. 280 gold, it was shut down. So when we acquired the asset from Kinross, we had this large body of knowledge, a lot of drill holes, and we did our own resource estimate, concluded there's a very large remnant resource there, which we've since proven in the resource estimate that we put out late last year. But beyond that, the real nugget for us was that high grade element, the element of what the old timers mined directly underneath the low grade open pits.
Right.
And that element of the project had never been tested in any modern sense. So that, for us, is the into the project. That's what Integra is all about. It's the high-grade story.
Absolutely. And the high-grade story was very high-grade. The old-timers who were mining in the late 1800s, they had cutoffs in the 15 gram per ton or higher, depending, in that sort of range. They pulled a lot of really high-grade gold out right from underneath where Kinross was mining this lower-grade stuff. Kinross, from our conversations, I understand, they had to feed this big mill. They were really focused, therefore, on finding near-surface gold. Occasionally, they would tap into some higher-grade stuff below, but they didn't have the time, the mental space, the capacity to go after that. They didn't care. So you know that it's there, at least some of it. So now the drill program that's going to get underway shortly, that's the search, right? Is to try and see if, in addition to this oxide, or this near-surface oxide and transition ore, if there's also the second layer of the story.
That's right, and immediately underneath those open pits, essentially. And so we have plenty of indications to know that it's there from the historical record, from the fact that Kinross intersected those high-grade veins by pure accident. Remember, they were just poking away, shallow holes to define near-surface ore for the open pit for the Hungry Mill. Along the way, they push the odd hole down a little, marginally deeper, and they hit these spectacular grades. So we know it's there. And there are other indications as well, something that you and I haven't talked about, which is the results of the IP survey that were run when I think you were out there.
Right.
You saw those cables. It turns out that there's a coincident massive chargeability anomaly right underneath those open pits. And according to our geophysical consultant who did the survey and who did the interpretation, it's real. It's about 500 meters long, goes down about 500 meters deep, and it coincides with those high-grade structures that we are targeting. So it's either clay, it's either pyrite, or it's both, but we know that there's something there. So it's just further motivation for us to drill deeper.
Right. Okay, that's exciting. And then there's the property right next door, Florida Mountain, which you've also acquired. You just announced that acquisition, although it's been in the works for a little while. Very similar production history, high grade, long time ago, open pit as part of the Kinross operation more recently. Similar room full of data that you've now churned through, and you will soon be generating a resource on there that's similar to what you had at Delamar.
That's correct. So same exercise, same geology, same low sulfidation epithermal system, same body of knowledge, albeit just within the sort of surface to 120 meters depth. And again, this was Kinross trying to define a low-grade open pit. We know, again, from the historical record that there are two veins in particular, Trade Dollar and Blackjack, that were mined from the surface all the way to the valley bottom, which is about 1,500 feet of difference. Long way, so these are extensive veins. And similar situation, 15 gram per ton cutoffs, 30 gram, 60 gram average grade stopes, decent widths, and that, again, is our target.
So a two-pronged story. Potential for more of what Kinross did, open pit, near surface, large scale operation. And then if it works out, if all signs are pointing to something, then there's higher grade underground. This is just the very beginning of this story.
That's correct. And really sort of nirvana for us looks like both of those in terms of a development scenario. What does this look like as an open pit mining operation, either heap leach or mill? We'll figure that one out. And what does this look like as a narrow vein, high grade mining operation? And what could this look like when you put the two of those together? And you start to get to production levels that become, a serious attraction to those who are lacking reserves in the mid-tier space. Not to say that we won't build this one this time around. But that's it. It's that optionality that we really love about this project.
Right,
Yep.
and team that's done it before, but a brand new company with a tight share structure, money in the bank, and a story that's really just getting started.
And a great roster of shareholders too.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yep.
Perfect, well thanks for the rundown.
Awesome, thank you.
This has been Gwen and George Salamis at the Metals Investor Forum.